So, biggest step up on this is we go from a single boiler configuration to a multiple boiler configuration. So what this means is that we have our steam boiler at the back, and then we have a vertical boiler behind each group head. One of the key things we do on the F18 compared to other manufacturers to save on energy cost and improve energy efficiency in what is a fairly thirsty machine is actually we borrow a bit of tech that we originally developed for the Opera. Before we actually get to using any energy for heating coffee for brewing, we actually run a single tube heat exchanger through the steam boiler. The reason we do that is we have the steam boiler that's creating 120, 125 degrees temperature. Rather than hitting the brew boilers with cold water, we run it through a heat exchanger through the main boiler, and then we feed the brew boilers with the water that's already at about 50 degrees without using any additional energy. So we've already got water that's already slightly warmed and heated before it hits those brew boilers. So then the energy and the watts needed to then power those boilers independently is far reduced because we've already got water that's at 50 degrees. Bringing that up to our 91, 92, 93 degree set point requires less energy, and equally the refresh rates, you don't get as much drop off in between if there is ever a need for it to flush and refill. We then have a lot more control when it comes to our calibration. So we can set each group head independently. As you can see, I've got one up at 91, 92 and 93 on this setup. I can then program pre-infusion by seconds independently on every single button, which you can do on the SB as well, but you can do it on here really simply. The biggest benefit as well alongside on the F18 multi-boiler is you've then got this full display control to be able to calibrate all your settings on the machine very simply and very easily on the display. So be it simple things like turning on the LED lights or turning them back on again, or right the way through to actually calibrating your group head temperatures, calibrating your pre-infusion, or calibrating your overall doses. Is very simply and easily done. Also, what key thing to point out about all of our machines in the multi-boiler range and up, we don't show the set point temperature on any of our boilers. We actually show the live boiler temperature of what's going on in those boilers. So you'll see these flicking around very slightly because that's actually what the boiler is at. So very, very few manufacturers have the confidence, I'd say, in showing the set point because of their inconsistency of what they'll do. So you get a lot of machines that will show Spaziali are great for it. They have those little LED bars with like 112 written on it or whatever, and 115. It's just what it's set to. It's not what the boiler's actually doing. Whereas we show the live point of that boiler, so you can see where the boiler's going. So you can see these are all just flicking around by about 0.1 of a degree, just as they're heating up. So the stability of that group head is to about 0.1, 0.2 of a degree. In addition, on the F18 multi-boiler compared to the standard F18, the actual group heads are also heated, just to complete consistency in the cycle of the brewing. So it does two things. One, it ensures that the 91 degree water from the boiler is remaining at 91 and coming out, albeit that boiler is literally bolted to the back of the group head, and in turn it ensures that our portafilter is also of a similar temperature, so you've not got cold portafilters and shocking the coffee with hot water. So you get a real consistent temperature of brew all the way through the cycle. Again, you've got all the energy modes on this as well, so you can make this machine super efficient when it comes to shutting down on the energy modes as well. Also, there's a couple of screensavers and bits and pieces which come into play to save energy by shutting off these displays if they're not used for 15 minutes. And so on. Quarter turn steam arms, same as you have on the standard F18. One of the advantages as well of now having the multiple boilers, we've now got the mixed tap as standard on the F18, which is borrowed directly from the Cafe Racer and the Opera, so comes from a good place.
Stewart, random question.
Yep.
With the eco settings.
Yep.
Overnight, how should these machines be left?
I mean, it's all a bit 50-50. It's all a bit 50-50. Do I want a pressure vessel at 1.2 bar, a couple of hundred degrees, unmanned on site overnight for an insurance purpose? Will it save me a bit in energy cost? Probably. Is it safer to turn it off and not when there's nobody on site for 6 to 8 hours? Probably. I would say there's no straight answer. I would say if you're looking at purely from an electrical efficiency point of view, yes, there probably is a slight saving. Do rubber seals like to stay hot and moist and not dry out? Absolutely. If you're closed for a weekend, yes, turn it off rather than it sitting there. What we can do on the F18 and on the F18, on the SB, you can actually program times for the machine to come on and off. So there's no need for it to be on overnight as such. So you can have it.
Off, is that completely off? Is that standby?
So standby. So it'll go into like phase 1. So it'll just all the electronics will be live, but there'll be no heating going on.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. I've never fully understood the difference between 1 and 2. One.
So literally.
One fills it with water.
Yeah, that will fill it and give all the electronics power and cup heater and everything else, but it won't actually engage the element to heat any water until you go to stage 2. So.
Just to clarify, sorry.
Yep.
Turning it off every night.
Yep.
More energy efficient or less energy?
Less energy efficient. Okay. Less energy efficient because you know if the machine thing, winter overnight, machine could get down to 10 degrees or whatever, and then heating back up from 10 to 90 takes considerable amount of energy.
So it's better to just leave it on.
Yeah. If you just idle it and bubble it at like 60, 70 degrees, the energy to then bring it back to 90 is far, far less in managing that. So you can program it just on there and say, I want it on at 6 o'clock in the morning and I want it off at 7 o'clock at night. Yeah.
Can you set the idle temperature, or does it just cut the element at all completely?
It cuts the element completely in the standby mode. Yeah. So there's no power running to that.
It's just a question of how much that will drop overnight.
Yeah, I mean, depends on how long and temperature and ambience and everything else. But both the boilers are insulated, so after 4 hours, we know they get to about 50 degrees. So, you're probably going to get down 8 hours overnight, 10 hours overnight. You're probably going to be 20, 30 degrees. I think I turned that one on this morning, and it was been on yesterday, and it was 27.1 this morning. So, it wasn't quite down to cold. So yeah. Regular height and tool cup, both this is actually the tool cup version. As you can see, there's a little gap on the back here. You can just drop the drip tray in the chassis. It's a nice machine for customer use. You can actually see over the machine when you're working with customers as well. It's not overly high compared to some of the other machines, certainly when it comes to a tool cup. If you've ever seen a tool cup Verona, it sits about here. It's a bit of a beast. So it's nice and low. Full metal chassis, full aluminium die-cast legs. Again, all the life cycle and the materials have been selected to last the life of the machine rather than wearing out before that. Also super easy if there's any software updates or anything that needs to be done, just a USB goes into the board and away you go. So I've only done one update this one in the last year, so there's now 2 screens on the main home screen. So you've got the original pressures, and then you can actually see your last shot times, boiler temperatures, and your individual group temperatures on there once this goes into idle mode. So cool. Any questions?
I didn't know that. I never knew you had to see the last shot time.
Did you not? There's a new setting.
I always coped with the fact that
Came on about 9 months
it
ago.
disappears.
No, about 9 months ago we added that.
Right.
Is that a software update? Is it?
Yeah, just a USB software update. Yeah.
So it won't be on the showroom.
Okay.
But yeah, it started coming out about standard. Yeah, I saw it. Yeah, it was definitely out of standard by October last year, but it was definitely around July time I saw it first of all. So
That's well, for the future, it's good to know.
yeah, and equally anything before that as well would have had the half turns versus the quarter turns. So.